Happy video day, guys, and happy Makeup Your Mind day. Today's Makeup Your Mind is going to be on a brand new release from Mcgrath. It is her new Rose Decadence palette, and this is like a mini version of her bigger palettes. I don't know if she calls them midis, but it's like a midi version. It's not the small ones, it's like the in-between ones. And they retail for $65 US, and they're going to be released, I think, on Wednesday, so August 12th. So I'm going to tell you guys, I'm going to be straight up with you guys. When I first saw this palette, automatically, from the image of the palette, this one, I honestly looked at it and just said, wow, you're so pretty. I think I might buy this one because I like Mcgrath. I have her Mothership 5 and I really enjoy it. Don't use it that often, but I really, really like it. And I want to add more Mcgrath to my collection. I've been passing on a lot of her recent releases because they've been very rose themed. There was the Divine Rose, then there was a Divine Rose 2, and then now there's this one. So this is like the baby Divine Rose, if you guys know what I'm saying. And it looks to me like it's closer to the Divine Rose 2 than it is to the original Divine Rose. But then they released the swatches, and guys, I don't know what it is, but these swatches to me do not look like the palette. There's two tones in here that I keep staring at going, where are these tones? But I do know from doing Makeup Your Mind for a very long time that sometimes in the pan things can look a lot lighter, and when you swatch it, it does appear darker. So I am going to go off of her swatches because this is what she's releasing to the public. She's saying if you buy this palette, this is what it's going to look like. So we're going to go by her swatches. And I went ahead and I searched my collection for this palette to kind of get an idea. So if you guys don't know, in Makeup Your Mind, basically what I do is I mimic a palette. So I look for similar tones inside of my collection to kind of create the color story. So once I get the color story, I can play with it, kind of decide, hey, do I like these colors together? Is this stuff I'm going to wear often? And then I make a decision whether I want to buy it or not. So I've been doing this for almost a year here on YouTube, and it's a practice that I do all the time. Anytime I want to buy a new palette, I kind of just like mimic it and then get an idea of whether I like it or not before I go and buy it, because why waste my money on something that's going to sit in my drawer and not be used? Yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to find the Rose Decadence. I'm going to show you guys what I found in my collection. I'm going to tell you what I was thinking while I was playing with this color story, and then at the end I will decide whether I want to pick it up or not. And of course, guys, I always do an Insta challenge every single week. And this week I posted this image on my Instagram and I asked you guys, what palette do you guys think I'm going to mimic this week? And these are all the people who got it right. So thank you guys so much for entering into my Insta challenge. If you guys want to get featured in my next Makeup Your Mind, all you have to do is follow me over on Instagram at Christina Brooke Beauty. Wait for me to post an image that looks like this one and just comment to me what palette you think I'm mimicking, and you can show up in my next Makeup Your Mind. So if you guys are new, I would love it if you would hit that subscribe button right now. I do a Makeup Your Mind every single week. Lately, I've been even adding even more because there's just so many releases coming out. So I would love it if you would join the family. And yeah, let's get into it. So like I always do in the beginning of these videos is I show you guys my results so you know where we're going. So these are the results. These are the swatches she has released to the public saying that this is what the palette is going to look like. So I went through my collection to try to find similar tones to what she released, and this is what I found. I will tell you straight away from the beginning of this video, there is two tones in here that to me just do not match what I'm seeing inside of the actual palette. And there is no other swatches at this moment right now on the internet of this palette, only what she has released. So this is what I'm going by. So for this, I did have to jump into 4 different palettes. I jumped into my Huda Beauty Mauve Obsessions. I jumped into one color from the Carly Bible palette. I did actually find a few of the colors inside of the Metropolis palette, and I actually had to dive into Natasha Denona Lila palette for one color. So those are the 4 palettes that I used, and I do think I was able to basically mimic this color story as good as I could based off of what she released. So let's first start off with the first color, and I did actually for this one, I'm gonna actually share with you guys the descriptions that she released just so that we can kind of be on the same page of what she's saying these colors are gonna look like versus the swatches. I have this theory that one of these colors is going to be pretty different, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So the first color, she's describing it as a pink champagne warm rose gold shimmer, okay? So it's going to be a warm rose and it's going to have like a gold a rose gold shimmer in it. So when I was looking in all my palettes, I just basically ended up saying, let me just stick to the Huda Beauty one, because Huda Beauty has these two up on the top right here, and both of these are very warm pinks. So what I did was I mixed them both together. When you mix them both together, you get like a light, warm, rosy tone. This is not as high shine as I believe that the new palette is going to be, because if it said it has like a gold shimmer in it, I'm sure it's going to be very reflective. Also inside of Carli Bybel, there's also this color right here called Aurora, which in my opinion may be even closer. It has all of those little glitters inside of it, but for color's sake, the color itself is going to be something similar to that with a little bit of like gold metallics with some reflex in it. So the first tone, I think it's very pretty. I really do. I love a warm rose, and I love that it has rose gold shimmers in it. Like that to me is just like a beautiful combination. So the first tone, I'm like, oh, in love, like really in love. Then when we went on to the second tone, this is the one that honestly to me, I just don't understand it 100%, because I looked at so many different images of this new palette and it looks more coral. Like it looks like a coral color, but it's not a coral color in the swatches. And if you read the description, she's calling it a peach dusk, a coral satin matte. Now this color that I see here, this doesn't look coral to me. I personally feel like if it is more coral, it's going to be so much more appealing to me than the tone that I found. Because the tone that I found, I had to go with Stev inside of Carli Bybel, because it's the only tone that I could find that looked like a reddish rose color. It's the only one. I can't find any other color like that in my collection that I was looking. I mean, Modern Renaissance has some, but they're too dark. So I ended up going with that color, but I feel like I matched it to her swatch. But I personally feel like this color is going to be more coral than it's appearing in this swatch. I don't know if the lighting was off in this image that they released, but I still think that every brand should release daytime swatches under natural daylight and just show us what we're getting before we buy these things. Because this image that I'm seeing is showing me like a reddish color, but the description says coral. So if you hate corals and you buy this thinking you're getting like a reddish tone, you're gonna be kind of upset, you know? So I personally just went by what it looks like in this swatch, but I think that it's going to be lighter and more orange than this color in real life. Like I really do. So I almost feel like Xing out her swatch and making this a little bit more coral, because I do think that that color is off. Okay, so for the next one, what I ended up doing was going into Lila. Now this color is, I feel like I've seen this so many times. This is the color that literally in the beginning, even though I know that the second tone, I don't think I have it right. If it went more coral, I was still on board with this palette. But then they put a fuchsia kind of color in it, like a magenta purple. So she describes it, a warm fuchsia duochrome. Two things, I'm not a huge fan of duochromes. Sorry, I know, but this is a fuchsia and this is a, you know, like basically a fuchsia. I'm so tired of fuchsia. Like I know that fuchsia can look good on a lot of skin tones and I do think it's a pretty color, but I'm tired of seeing it. I'm tired of seeing it because I hardly ever use it. Like I almost feel like for me personally, one fuchsia in my collection could last me my entire lifetime. So that tone, I was like, no, why is it in here? So that one kind of just like went like the first two tones just like kind of like knocked down for me, because now I see a fuchsia. Ugh. So then the next tone, I think that this one may be kind of similar. So what I ended up doing was going back into Huda Beauty. And this tone here on the bottom, there's this really pretty tone right here that's kind of like a deep plum that leans a little bit more red. Her description is a rose plum matte. So that's why I think that this one might be similar. It has a little bit more of a rosy hint to it, but it is plum. So I think that that one might be a little similar. There's a chance that hers may be a little lighter, because again, when I looked at her actual palette and I looked at her swatches look a lot deeper when it comes to this matte than I actually see in the palette. The palette to me looks lighter. So this is the second shade that I'm like, why does this look so different? So I'm not 100% sure if this one's going to be this deep. It actually might be lighter. If it is lighter, The palette to me basically has been starting to go to the direction of, I'm not sure anymore. If it's deeper, it's a little bit better, but I have a feeling it's going to be lighter. So I ended up going with the tone that's the closest to her swatch, and that's the tone that I found. But like I said, I believe it's going to be even lighter than this tone. And then for the next one, I actually said, okay, now we're going back on board with something that I think is cool. So what I ended up doing was going into the Metropolis and mixing these two tones right here. This one here is like a burnt red metallic, and this one here is like a coppery rustic shade. When you mix them both together, you get like kind of like an orange, like a burnt orange, beautiful tone. And I think that this is a very similar tone. She's describing it as a copper metallic. So I think that that's going to make a similar shade. I like that tone. That tone is beautiful. I actually think that tone with rosy colors is going to be so pretty. So that tone, I'm back on board. I'm like, okay, now I'm liking you again, you know? And then the last tone. The last tone, why? The last tone got me like, so then it throws us back to a gold color. So here is a gold. Yes, a nice gold. I have a million of these types of gold. She describes it as an antique gold metallic. So an antique gold to me means not the champagne-y golds that I kind of like. It means to me more of like those yellowy golds that lean a little more bronzy. So there we go. There is that antique kind of gold. If it's not similar to this one, I've got a lot of them because a lot of palettes have released with that tone. So we've got 6 shades here. 6 shades. I love Pat McGrath's formula, but a formula does not change a color. So even if you love a formula, if you don't like a color, it doesn't really matter anymore because you're never going to use it. So I don't like the gold. I don't like the fuchsia. Those two tones, for me right now. I have so many of them. And I don't want them in a super expensive palette because I don't use them. If I'm gonna buy something nice, I wanna use it a lot, you know? Love this coppery shade, beautiful. That is like the orangey copper is amazing. I love the first shade. The rosy tone, beautiful. The second shade, I don't think it's the color that I found. I think it's gonna be coral. I still think it's gonna be more coral, so I'm going with it's gonna be more coral. And I think that the second shade will be pretty, more coral. It's just like, guys, when I'm looking at this color story right now, even if I change this one to be more coral and this one even got lighter, this is going to be a color story to me that's going to create very similar lids. It's going to be the same look. The only difference that you're going to have is if you want to just use these different metallics to kind of just change everything up, you put a little bit of a deepening shade, which would probably be this shade right here, but it's going to be lighter than this, so I don't even know how much definition it's really going to give you. So let's say it's a little lighter than that. You're going to use that, and then maybe you can put like the coppery shade all over. You're still going on the pink direction. You could do the same thing with the gold, but even the gold with like this combination with the gold is not my favorite. I did put the gold in the center today and it looks pretty, but like I personally would not wear this look like every day. Like this is like a special occasion look to me. And I think that if this is more coral, it's gonna actually make the palette a little bit prettier because I was looking for a good matte to put down when I was starting this look, and I didn't have a good selection from the colors that I picked. I was kind of like, I need something a little lighter than this color. So if this is a coral, it actually is going to help the look. But that being said, you're gonna get even brighter of like a pink eye. So it's just not the direction I like to go. So I think for right now, I'm just gonna make up my mind and say, I'm not picking this up because I can tell that the color story, even though it looks beautiful in the pan, and I'm sure it's gonna photograph amazing, and I'm sure we're gonna see some really amazing like Instagrammable looks, it's just not a color story that I like. This is what I'm hoping. I am hoping that her next size palette that's going to be like this one is going to be a little bit more of a take on the Divine Rose 1. Then we might be talking a little bit more my style. I want it a little bit more muted down. I want to see more plums in there. I don't want to see gold and I don't want to see fuchsia. I want to see dusty roses. I want to see these type of copper shades. I want to see plums. I think that that would be so beautiful. A more of a look that I think that I would be able to sport like a lot, you know? So for that reason is why I'm not gonna pick up this palette. And I'm gonna tell you guys, I'm a little bit disappointed because I really wanted to get this one. I already have signed up for the pre-sale so that I could buy it. And I had everything ready. I'm like, I'm just gonna buy it, I want it. But at the end of the day, guys, it's just not my color story. And I just shouldn't buy stuff that's not my color story. So that's where we're gonna leave it. So I wanna know from you guys, are you guys picking this up? Are you guys scared that those two shades that I pointed out to you might actually be lighter than what we're seeing in these swatches? Does that kind of bother you a little bit? So leave me those comments down below. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. And yeah, I'm gonna talk to you guys later.